Hey guys, what's going on? Back at it again. Um, yeah, last video, got the intercooler pipe, all that stuff finished up. Um, I've changed gears once again, so after getting the intercooler stuff set up, and since I have a TIG welder now, I got the bright idea that now would be a good time to build a new turbo manifold. So I ordered a kit from Treadstone, which is basically just a bunch of pipes. Yeah, so basically what you get is a box of Weld L's pipes and a couple of flanges, T3 and Mazda flange. You get T3, T4. I think they even have a V-band. And, uh, and yeah, then you just make up your own. Kit, or you make up your own manifold. Why am I so dark? There we go. So yeah, decided I was gonna do that. With the kit, you have the option to get a collector. The part that all the pipes come together, and then you have your flange that attaches to that. I was like, nah, I've got tools. I'll make my own. If I'm gonna make my own manifold, I'll make my own. I'll make my own collector. So they send you a 16-inch piece of pipe, that you cut up, and you can make your collector. I was like, it's just a few cuts, right? Well, it's a weird angle, so there's some trigonometry involved. So you can either download some stencils that you wrap around and then trace, and then you can use an angle grinder to cut out the shape that's supposed to be there, because it's not just it's technically just a straight cut, right? So if you have a blade and you could cut straight through, you would just cut. You'd start in the middle, and you cut at an angle. The thing is, you have to find that angle. Collectors are typically between 13 to 30 degrees. The steeper the angle, higher velocity, better the flow. So ideally, you want to go with as steep of an angle as you can. So I opted for 15 degrees. I was trying to think of some ways to do it, some ways to cut it. Like I said, I saw a bunch of things online about making stencils. There's some jigs that you can mount the pipe in, and then take a bandsaw, and like a vertical bandsaw or a horizontal bandsaw, and then just cut down, and you rotate it 90 degrees, and then you cut it again. And I was like, well, I don't see why I can't do that in my garage with something other than a bandsaw, because I don't have a vertical bandsaw or a horizontal bandsaw. I do have a chop saw. So the issue was the fence on the chop saw is perpendicular to the blade, and it only goes 15 to 30 degrees, but that's perpendicular to the blade. I need to be parallel with the blade at 15 degrees off of that. So rather than being 15, if the blade's here, rather than being 15 to 30 degrees this way, I need to be 15 to 30 degrees in axis with the blade. And of course, the fence on chop saw doesn't work that way. So I had to make a jig to hold the pipe. And making the jig, granted, I made it out of scrap pieces of metal. They're just laying around my garage. Like I said, scrap pieces of metal that I had from when I made my motor mounts. So the actual cost of the jig didn't cost me anything. The time involved in trying to figure out the best way to do this and the best way to hold the pipe without the blade interfering with the clamp, because since it's such a short piece of pipe, if I had a longer piece of pipe, it'd be a lot easier. I could hold it anywhere where the blade isn't going to be, but since the pipe is so short, I only have an inch where I can hold the pipe. So this is what I ultimately came up with, was put a little screw here to keep it steady with the clamp back here, because the clamp back here was not enough. I thought it would be. I thought I'd get real smart with this and have it come down at an angle and apply the load across the correct axis of the pipe, and that didn't work at all. So it was this big old giant waste of time. But then I came up with a simpler design, which would have just been a piece of back brace, the piece coming off 90 degrees, and then a clamp that goes inside the pipe that you would screw down, and then that would have held it, because then I could have held it at the midpoint and it would have been great. But I was like, no, I've already dedicated myself to this design. This is what I'm sticking with. And it's probably a bad idea, but the stubbornness. So anyways, the idea here is you stick the pipe in. I have, actually I don't even have it lined up right. So get the pipe in the jig here. Get your big sharp blade out of your way. Loosen this guy up. So you notice the protractor I have right here. so I can know precisely 90 degrees. I went ahead and traced a circle so I can know exactly where this is centered. So you can see right there in the center, we got our 0 degree mark and then our 90 degree mark. I went ahead and marked it on the pipe, so there's our 0 and 90. So that's important because we're going to make our first cut. I also have it marked on the jig just so I can have a parallel with that back plate, because that seems like a good spot. And then, so you make your first cut, and then you'll make your other cut at 90 degrees. And so since they're all cut at 90, and there's 4 pipes, they should all come together and make a nice, neat fitting, collector. If it was 3 pipes, you do 60 degrees. If it was 8 pipes, I believe 45 degrees. And then you would, I don't think it would be a hell of a collector, 8-to-1 collect. But anyways, the point is, the number of the angle, or the number of degrees you have to rotate the pipe, is dependent upon the number of pipes you have, and it's basically the 360 degrees divided by the number of pipes. So that would be the that would be that. So I did some test pieces. First time I did this is some scrap metal I had, and it was kind of funny. So I did my first cut, and then I rotated it, but I didn't do it to a true 90. I just rotated it until I used like a straight edge against the side of this, not realizing that that wasn't a full 90 degree rotation. It's 90 degrees to the blade, but since the blade's at an angle, it wasn't true. It was like 35 degrees, not, or like, would that be like 80 something degrees instead of 90 degrees. So I ended up with a weird 3.5 to 1 collector where I couldn't fit the 4th piece in. But anyways, it proved the concept that this setup should work, hopefully. So I'm going to attempt to make my first cut. The other sketchy thing is that this is not a cold cut or a dry cut saw. This is just a normal Harbor Freight saw that spins at 2800 RPM, and I have a what do you call it, a dry cut blade affixed to it, because I want it to be a clean cut and I don't want all the sparks. I don't want all the dust, because it's the abrasive blades, abrasive cutting, whatever they are. These guys make a mess, so so the problem with spinning this faster than you're supposed to spin it is, of course, the danger of these little carbide teeth are welded to the blade, so they can become shrapnel. But from reading, that's not the issue with spinning it too fast. The issue with spinning it too fast is the feed rate of the material through the blade. If you go too fast, you can overheat the carbide tips, and then you can break the tips, and then you ruin the blade. I've heard of people getting a good deal of use out of these, spinning them a little bit too fast. Luckily, this isn't like a 4,800 or 5,000 RPM chop saw. It's only 2,800, so it's only 1,000 only 1,000 RPM faster than what it's supposed to be spun at. I figure I will just kind of throttle it. I'll go easy with the cuts. If it seems like it's not chooching the way it should chooch, I'll just go ahead and put the abrasive blade back in and do it that way. But ideally, I only need to make 8 cuts with this, 8 fairly short cuts. So hopefully it works. If it doesn't work, or if the blade comes apart, the car goes to Matt Lynch, and as well as my computer, and then the wife can divvy up the rest of the goodies to everyone else. Maybe do a subscriber giveaway or something. But in all seriousness, I don't think the blade's gonna come apart. But if it does, it'll be on film. Not gonna take too many chances. So we are lined up at 90. We're going to attempt to make a cut. Old faithful setup here. Go with what you know. I mean, it's not bad. It's not horrible. Not great. Got a big old gap in the middle there. I can probably shear some of that up, you know, when I go to tack this together. But, you know, considering things could. Alright, so I got my pieces ready to weld up. Some of them came out very nice. Well, okay, let's say very nice tight fit. As you can see, the gap right through there. But yeah, it's a pretty decent fit. Tiny little gap. I could probably sand it a little more and get it a little bit better. But I feel like I've spent a little too much time on this already. So that side's good. This side, not so good. Multiple things went wrong. One, I messed up the last piece of pipe I had, so I had to use a piece of Schedule 40 instead of a piece of Schedule 10, so the thickness is different. I don't know if that's why this peak is higher. I don't know. This piece got really jacked up, and I tried to salvage it. I should probably cut another piece, but I'm not. I'm just going to fill it in. This will be on the back side, so you won't see it, hopefully. But there's a pretty decent gap in the middle. But it's not horrible. So I'm going to go ahead and tack these pieces together and see if I have a somewhat decent collector. Hey guys, alright, so battery died halfway through me making the collector. I don't quite remember where I left off at with where that was, because I haven't watched the video. I just know that the camera stopped. And rather than getting a new SD card, I just kind of said screw it and kept working. So I've accomplished a lot. So I just kind of want to say, like, so when I'm doing stuff, and if I don't really know what I'm doing, like if I really don't know what the hell I'm doing, I don't like recording myself doing that. And it's not because I don't want you guys to know I don't know what I'm doing. I always say I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just a guy with a camera and some tools. It's the recording process can take freaking forever because I don't know when it's going to end. I don't know when it's going to finally click for me and I'm going to catch on. So I end up just hours and hours and hours of me getting frustrated. I have to edit through, and I was like, I'm just not going to record that stuff. So ran into some issues with the collector. I couldn't get the pieces even using the abrasive saw, because the abrasive saw has a lot of flex in the blade, so the blade would start cutting and then just kind of start doing this sometimes as it went down. And so the cuts weren't all even. So I was like, well, I have a milling machine that works. So I was like, I'll chuck them up and I'll cut a piece of angle 15 degrees, put the piece in there, put it on the milling machine, and just mill it flat, and that should be good. It kind of worked, but didn't work great because the pieces were just kind of jacked up to begin with. So it didn't quite work out the way it should have worked out with. So the collector ended up being a little jacked up, but I did finish it. So yeah, the collector's not great. It's not horrible. I mean, the welds came out all right. The inside's janky. Me trying to TIG these in these corners here where it's really tight. It's a really tight thing, and I couldn't move. I'm not precise enough. It's like playing Operation, right? You've got the lead of the TIG torch, down in there in between, and if it touches the sides, it just stops and sticks. And so you're trying to move through there quickly, but you can't move through quickly because you'll touch the sides. So I kind of went through kind of slowly, and as you can see, I went way too slow and started burning through and stuff like that. So hopefully this isn't completely ruined. It's not structurally destroyed or anything. But yeah, and the inside is cleaned up with a burr bit. It's not beautiful. I really, like, honestly, I'm still considering just buying a collect. Nah, I'm not. I was still considering just buying a new collector. The other issue I ran into was that I didn't clamp this flange down. When I did my old manifold, I didn't clamp it down, but this flange was a lot thicker on the old manifold, and I was able to weld it on without too much heat. This bowed up on both sides when I soldered when I welded it, so I ended up having to put it on the belt sander and flatten it back out, and it's still kind of high on the sides, but the area around the port is flat, and I think that's good enough. That should be good enough. So when the gasket is in there, it should seal. And I may attempt to grind it a little bit more, to get it just that much more flat. But yeah. So anyways, we're at the point now where we're trying to mock up what the manifold's going to look like. As you can see, I got the flange on the head, turbos up here on a jack stand. Made a nice little jig there to hold the turbo. I think this looks like a pretty good position for it down here. It shouldn't be so low that I have to worry about the oil drain. I may want to tweak this a little bit because I don't want this right up against this the inlet right up against this hose here. So I may tweak it a bit, but that's about where that's going to go. So what I need to do once I figure out exactly where I want it is to get some rod that I can weld to the flange here and weld it to the flanges and just hold this piece in one spot temporarily while I get the runners. So the runners, I kind of got figured out. This is just very, very rough. So this is about sort of about how this is going to go. Obviously, everything doesn't match up because things need to be cut and trimmed, but this is rough cut where how that's going to be. And something like that. And then the two outer ones will loop over and down into that guy. So I'll show you what. Alright, so next step, basically try and assemble this all back together on the bench. We shall see how this goes. Something like that. Something like that. Alright, so gotta decide on exactly how to finish this guy off. This is a rough idea of what she's gonna look like. Gotta decide if I want to put an angle. I don't like the way that bends and then it'll go like straight. Even if I cut this, it'll be kind of, I think it'll look kind of weird. So, I don't know. Maybe cut it, do a straight piece, and then into the, but it's late, so we're gonna go ahead and call it a night. But that's a rough idea of what she'll look like. Alright guys, so got these guys broken down somewhat. Working on getting these fitted up to be a more precise fit. So we got this guy. I just wonder. So the thing that has me super worried about all this, one, like I said, I'm just a guy. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not a welder. I'm not a well, I don't know. I'm a fabric-cobbler, not so much a fabricator. So it's like I know that stainless has a tendency to shrink. So I don't know how much I should account for shrinkage. Giggity. But this right here, I mean, that's a pretty good fit right there, assuming that everything doesn't go to hell when I actually start welding things together. Like when I actually weld this runner together as one piece, you know, how's that gonna go? So I don't know. But anyways, there's one down. Number 4. So just gonna keep at it. Keep on keeping on, you know. If I can go ahead and tack that in place. Hey guys, what's going on? Alright, so welcome back again. Actually, I don't really know if this is a welcome back because I think I'm in the middle of another video. Keep doing that. Keep forgetting where I left off at. I don't know why it's so dark. Why do I look so dark? There we go. Let's bring that face in there a little bit. Alright, so yeah, so still working on the manifold. Where do I leave off at? So trying to figure out the best way to mount these, to get these pipes ran. Most efficient way. Originally I was going to go for the route of least cuts, but then that makes the turbo manifold look kind of ugly. You know, I had these kind of going all up over here and whatnot, and it just didn't look good to me. So I think I'm going to try something kind of like this. You know, and then these pipes will kind of hug the contours, maybe. Anyways, the idea would be that the pipes would kind of hug the shape a little more. One goes down, and so I think something like that would be better. So I think I might try that, or something like that. It's just trial and error, you know. So like Ice Engine Works makes this really nice modeling kit, but it's intended for people that do this for a living because the kit's like $1,500. And it's like, that's a lot of money for a glorified Lego set. I get it, it's patented and all that crap, but I mean, it's literally just building blocks. It's basically just plastic pieces in these shapes and sizes to interconnect, and so you can make your manifold without having to cut any metal and stuff. You know, it's in these sizes, and then it's like in quarter and half sizes. It's all radius and everything, so then you can just, you know, snap them off, and you can make your own little setup. I mean, it's a real nice set, but it's the cost is ridiculous. Some people do have some models of a setup like it online so that you can make your own, provided you have a 3D printer. And while I do have access to a 3D printer, you know, I don't want to lose my job, you know, using government resources and whatnot. So, kind of an idiot with the way I just did that. Stupid thing is super freaking cool. It's like, freaking butter. It's stainless steel. Blades don't last very long, but I mean, slices right through that thing. And it's not very hot either. Pick it up with your bare hands. Definitely recommend. So, current progress. Oh, drop that down. This guy over here. Making sure it's not still 1,000 degrees. Just got done sanding the hell out of it. So here's a little guy. Alright, like 5 hours of work just in this little, getting this guy shaped up right, because, you know, I don't have a machine shop. I'm not a machinist. I don't have the proper tools. I just kind of make do with what I got. But all that work just to get this little guy, just to get that guy to go in like so. Of course, that needs to be tweaked, but yeah, all that for that little guy right there. Just to fill that gap. Oops. So I'll get that tacked in. Unfortunately, to make that gap fit, it's a little bit of a gap over here where it meets the collector. Actually, no, there isn't a gap there. I thought there was, but there isn't. So this isn't airtight, you know, it's not a perfect fit, but it's as good as it's going to be, because I'm not about to spend any more time on it. It's about as good as it's going to get. So we'll go ahead and tack that guy in place, and 3 out of 4 runners will be done. Gotta do one more thing kind of like this for this guy, and I think this guy almost fits like in there as well, so probably do the same thing, same type of angle, just a little bit longer, and I guess a little bit less of an angle. Kind of play with the clocking. This one I have to be a compound angle. Flat doesn't work. Kicks it off too much in the wrong direction. So it'll have to be, yeah, this one will have to be like a couple of different angles to make that work. But we'll figure it out. That one's going to be a pain. I may have to break this one loose and rebend it, get it in a better position. But anyways, we'll get this guy tacked up, you can even see because my arm was probably in the way the whole time. Anyways, we'll get this guy tacked up and we'll call that runner done. Well, not done, but the fab of it done anyways. Cool beans. Actually quite pleased with how close that is. I learned from, you know, making this little piece right here on this one, you know, so not perfect, but it's damn close. So, like I thought, I need a little bit of angle on this side to make this kind of fit just right. Kind of cut it a little short, but I think I got enough wiggle in there that I might be able to make that work. So yeah, you know, a little final piece here, this little guy. So if you ever start doing this stuff, you know, I advise you don't, it's a pain in the ass. To find like an angle like this, you know, just use a pair of calipers, and I find the widest gap and measure the shortest gap, and then kind of determine if it's going to be a acute angle or like a, you know, I forgot what the other term is, but anyways, you know, usually you can get away with like this, you know, 90-degree kind of deal here. Well, this obviously isn't at 90 degrees, but once one plane is at 90 and the other is going to be your angle, so you would, you know, measure, you know, if your pipe's here, obviously you're going to measure, you know, your widest angle and then mark your shortest angle, or your shortest distance, and then kind of, this is where it gets hard. I'm sure there's a jig for this. You would want to find those 2 points and then take a marker and kind of get a line, and then you would cut from one to the other, and then you get your angled piece there. Kind of crude. It works though. Like I said, there's all types of fancy jigs out there to make this a lot easier, where you just dial in the angle and you make your cut. Might buy one of those. Would be a huge time saver. The first time I looked at them, I was like, oh man, a couple of $100 for just a fixture? That's ridiculous. But after trying to do it without it, yeah, pain in the ass. But yeah, so that's the last piece. Well, kind of the last piece. I gotta do the wastegate, but I'll do that after I get all the welds complete. Because I'm not exactly sure where. I don't know why that one came out so crunchy. All the other ones came out pretty good. Yeah. So anyways, last piece here. Piece O of the puzzle. Can you do it? It kind of fits two ways. And do it that way, it doesn't really work very well. Or there we go. That way works a lot better. And it's like a perfect like butter fit. You know, you get the angle just right. And you obviously gotta rotate her a little bit, but anyways, yeah, that's the piece there. Just stay in there. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get this welded, get this tacked, and I'm gonna need more argon so I can back purge this, and then I'll break the tacks here at the runner, at the merge collector, and then at the flange, clean everything up, and then weld the individual runners, and then weld the runners back in place. And I can't wait to see just how much things are going to move and grow and shrink to make it so that none of these runners fit back where they're supposed to go. It's going to be exciting. So onward we go. Alright, so I think it looks pretty good. Like I said, I'm not a welder, but I can stick metal together. Not the prettiest welds. I mean, I'm not mad. I'm not as pleased. I probably should have practiced a lot more before I actually started this, but you know, it's one of those things you practice and you think, hey, you know, I can do that, so I should be able to do this no problem, but it is really, really difficult to get consistent beads. Like, there's like some good spots here and there, you know, but then there's some blobs like that, and I probably need to go back over that so that it's not potential area for cracking and all that stuff, but for the most part, it's all sealed up. These were kind of a pain in the ass, so one of the things that happened was halfway through finishing it, I welded these two runners first, and I guess at some point when they cooled, it cracked my little support beams I had here to attach the flange to the thing, and it tweaked the flange ever so slightly. So these two runners were kind of further away than they should have been, and I actually had to cut a small sliver to stick into that one, which is why that bead is so fat, to fill in the space for that one. And this one was just kind of a little bit of an air gap, you know, so I just had to do a bunch of tacks and then just fill in the gap with weld. It was back purged, so it should be alright. I can see a little bit of a line there, but hopefully that's good. Hopefully it doesn't crack. It probably will, because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But all in all, not too shabby. Alright, so here we are inside the engine bay. Fits pretty good. One issue here, this is a little bit closer than I would have liked it to be, so I may trim this out a little bit, or I might just leave it and let it self-clearance over time. I don't know. I don't want it to be an issue with it cracking the manifold, but I think the manifold's a lot stronger than this beam is, so I may just leave it, or I may notch it a little bit. I don't know. I haven't decided. But anyways, let's go ahead and throw the turbo on and see what she looks like in there. So, there we go. Looks pretty good. It's funny because of how much space there is behind the manifold. It looks like the turbo would be sticking out, but it's actually, the turbo's pretty tucked in, pretty much as far as I could get it, you know, comfortably. Tried to keep the hot side, whoops, away from the block as much as I could, but yeah, it looks like that'd be a pretty good fit. Should still have enough space for the oil drain to work properly. So, of course, next I gotta work on a downpipe, and I also have to figure out where I'm gonna put the wastegate. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good end for this video, and then we'll you know, come back when it's buttoned up a little more, and we'll get closer and closer to that first start, hopefully. Till next time.